Have you ever wondered what happens when a Sigma man finally stops caring? Not caring about attention, not caring about approval, not caring about proving himself to people who never appreciated him in the first place. Most people think this would make someone cold, negative, or disconnected from the world. But what if the opposite is true? What if the moment a Sigma stops caring is actually the moment he becomes stronger than ever before? For years, many people spend their lives worrying about what others think. They seek validation, chase acceptance, and constantly adjust their behavior to avoid criticism. They allow opinions, expectations, and social pressure to influence their decisions. Without realizing it, they hand over control of their happiness to other people. A Sigma man eventually sees through this. He realizes that no matter what he does, some people will support him and some people won't. Some will respect him and some won't. Some will understand him and some never will. And that's when everything changes. Instead of wasting energy trying to please everyone, he starts focusing on himself. He invests in his goals, his discipline, his mindset, and his future. He stops chasing approval and starts building self-respect. He stops explaining himself to people who are determined to misunderstand him. He stops fighting battles that lead nowhere. The interesting thing is that the less he cares about outside validation, the more freedom he gains. He becomes harder to manipulate, harder to pressure, harder to distract. He begins making decisions based on his values instead of other people's expectations. And that creates a level of confidence that most people never experience. So what really happens when a Sigma stops caring? Does he become distant? Does he become stronger? Or does he finally discover a kind of freedom that most of people spend their entire lives searching for? In this video, we're going to explore the powerful transformation that happens when a Sigma man stops caring about things that don't truly matter and starts focusing on what does. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications for more Sigma mindset, self-discipline, confidence, and personal growth content. Now let's uncover what happens when a Sig stops caring. He stops seeking approval. One of the first things that happens when a Sigma man stops caring is that he no longer seeks approval from others. Many people spend years trying to gain acceptance, praise, and recognition. They adjust their behavior based on what others might think. They worry about criticism and constantly look for validation before making decisions. Over time, this becomes exhausting because their confidence depends on other people's opinions. A Sigma eventually realizes that this is a losing game. No matter what you do, someone will disagree with you, criticize you, or misunderstand you. Once he accepts this reality, he stops wasting energy trying to please everyone. Instead, he begins focusing on his own standards and values. This shift creates freedom. He no longer feels pressured to explain every decision or justify every action. He becomes more confident because his self-worth comes from within rather than from outside approval. This doesn't mean he becomes rude or disrespectful. It simply means he stops allowing other people's opinions to control his life. As a result, his decisions become more authentic. He chooses paths that align with his goals, instead of following expectations that others place on him. The more he trusts himself, the less dependent he becomes on validation. This is often the beginning of a major transformation. By letting go of the need for approval, the Sigma gains confidence, independence, and peace of mind that many people never experience because they remain trapped by the opinions of others. He protects his energy. When a Sigma stops caring about unnecessary drama and outside validation, he begins protecting his energy more carefully. Most people give away large amounts of mental and emotional energy without realizing it. They become involved in pointless arguments, worry about things they cannot control, and spend time trying to satisfy people who will never be satisfied. The Sigma eventually recognizes how costly this can be. He understands that energy is one of his most valuable resources. Every argument, distraction, and unnecessary conflict takes something away from him. Once he stops caring about things that do not contribute to his growth, he becomes far more selective about where he invests his attention. This change often surprises people. The Sigma becomes less reactive. He no longer feels the need to respond to every criticism or participate in every disagreement. Instead, he asks himself whether something is worth his time and effort. If the answer is no, he simply moves on. Protecting energy allows him to focus more on his goals, habits, and personal development. Rather than being consumed by negativity, he directs his attention toward activities that improve his future. This creates greater productivity and emotional stability. Over time, this habit becomes one of his greatest strengths. While others are exhausted by constant distractions, The Sigma remains focused and balanced. By protecting his energy, he creates more space for growth, learning, and progress. That is why stopping caring about unnecessary things often becomes a powerful advantage. He becomes harder to manipulate. Another major change that occurs when a Sigma man stops caring about approval is that he becomes much harder to manipulate. Many forms of manipulation rely on emotional reactions. People use guilt, fear, pressure, criticism, and validation to influence the behavior of others. These tactics are often effective because most people want acceptance and fear rejection. The Sigma gradually becomes aware of this dynamic. Once he stops seeking validation from others, many of these methods lose their power. He no longer feels obligated to satisfy every expectation placed upon him. Instead, he evaluates situations based on logic, values, and long-term consequences. Because he is less emotionally dependent on other people's opinions, he becomes more independent in his thinking. He is willing to make decisions that others may not understand if those decisions align with his goals. This independence makes him difficult to control. Manipulation often succeeds when people are afraid of disappointing others. The Sigma understands that disappointment is sometimes unavoidable. He accepts that not everyone will agree with him, and this acceptance gives him greater freedom. As a result, he develops stronger boundaries. He becomes more comfortable saying no, walking away from unhealthy situations, and refusing requests that conflict with his priorities. These boundaries protect his time, energy, and emotional well-being. The less he depends on external approval, the more control he gains over his own life. This is why stopping caring about unnecessary validation often makes the Sigma more resilient, independent, and resistant to manipulation. He focuses more on his goals. When a Sigma man stops caring about distractions, he naturally begins focusing more on his goals. Many people struggle to make progress because their attention is divided. They spend large amounts of time worrying about what others think, comparing themselves to others, or becoming distracted by things that have little impact on their future. The Sigma eventually realizes that success requires focus. Every minute spent seeking approval is a minute that could have been spent improving skills, learning something new, or moving closer to a goal. Once he understands this, his priorities begin to change. Instead of trying to impress people, he works on improving himself. Instead of chasing attention, he invests in growth. This shift allows him to make more consistent progress because his energy is directed toward things that actually matter. Focusing on goals also creates a stronger sense of purpose. The Sigma becomes less influenced by temporary emotions and outside opinions because he has a clear direction. He understands what he wants to achieve and why it matters. This clarity helps him remain disciplined even when challenges arise. Over time, his commitment to personal growth produces noticeable results. Skills improve, opportunities increase, confidence grows. While others remain distracted by external validation, the Sigma continues moving forward. By letting go of unnecessary concerns, he gains the ability to focus deeply on what matters most. This focus becomes one of the key reasons he continues growing, while others remain stuck in cycles of distraction and indecision. He develops true confidence. Many people believe confidence comes from praise, popularity, or success. The Sigma eventually learns that true confidence comes from something much deeper. It comes from self-respect, discipline, and the ability to trust yourself, regardless of what others think. When he stops caring about constant approval, he begins building confidence from within. He no longer relies on compliments to feel valuable or criticism to determine his worth. Instead, he measures himself against his own standards. This creates a stronger and more stable form of confidence. External validation can disappear at any moment because it depends on other people. Internal confidence remains because it is based on personal growth and self-awareness. The Sigma becomes more comfortable being himself. He stops pretending to fit expectations that do not align with his values. He accepts that not everyone will understand him, and he no longer feels the need to explain every decision. This confidence affects every area of life. He communicates more clearly, makes decisions more decisively, and handles challenges more effectively. Because he trusts himself, he becomes less dependent on reassurance from others. Over time, this self-confidence becomes visible. People notice that he remains calm under pressure and comfortable with who he is. They see someone who is not easily influenced by trends or opinions. That is why stopping caring about external validation often leads to greater confidence. The Sigma discovers that real confidence is not built by convincing others to believe in you. It is built by learning to believe in yourself. He finds freedom. Perhaps the biggest transformation that occurs when a Sigma man stops caring is that he finds freedom. Many people spend their lives trapped by expectations, opinions, and social pressure. They constantly worry about how they are perceived and whether they are meeting the standards of others. The Sigma eventually realizes that much of this pressure exists only because he allows it to. Once he stops giving excessive importance to outside opinions, he experiences a level of freedom that many people never discover. He becomes free to make decisions based on his values rather than fear, free to pursue goals that matter to him, free to walk away from situations that no longer serve him, free to be himself without constantly seeking approval. This freedom does not mean ignoring responsibility or refusing to care about anything. It means choosing carefully what deserves attention and what does not. The Sigma still cares deeply about important things. He simply stops wasting energy on things that add no value to his life. As this freedom grows, so does his peace of mind. He becomes less stressed by criticism, less distracted by comparison, and less influenced by social pressure. He gains the ability to focus on what truly matters. In many ways, this is the ultimate result of stopping caring about unnecessary things. The Sigma discovers that freedom is not found by controlling everyone around him. It is found by taking control of himself. Once he learns this lesson, his entire perspective on life begins to change. What happens when a Sigma stops caring? He doesn't become cold. He doesn't become arrogant. And he certainly doesn't stop growing. Instead, he stops wasting energy on things that don't matter. He stops chasing approval, stops trying to please everyone, and stops allowing other people's opinions to control his decisions. In return, he gains something far more valuable: freedom. Freedom to think for himself, freedom to focus on his goals, freedom to protect his peace, and freedom to live according to his own values. The truth is that the moment you stop caring about unnecessary validation is often the moment you start becoming the strongest version of yourself. You begin investing your time, energy, and attention into things that actually improve your life, instead of constantly worrying about what others think. Remember, confidence grows when you stop seeking permission to be yourself. And real strength appears when you stop giving power to things that don't deserve it. Now, I want to ask you something. Asterisk, what is one thing you stopped caring about that made your life better? Was it other people's opinions, trying to impress everyone, fear of failure, or something else? Asterisk, share your answer in the comments below. I'm curious to see how many people have experienced this transformation. And if you enjoyed this video and want more content about asterisk Sigma mindset, confidence, self-discipline, psychology, and personal growth arc, make sure to asterisk subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Asterisk stay focused, stay independent, and never let unnecessary opinions control your future.